Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Mayumi Hamanaka. I'm an artistic director at Color Art Institute. Color is a community art hub located in West Berkeley, offering exhibitions, educations, artist residency, and community engagement projects. We are so excited to co-present the music and media performance, Sonic Biogenesis, GENOMICS and Mutant Jungle featuring Guillermo Galindo and the Living Art Show with Shapeshifters Cinema. This piece is developed from the project Guillermo presented in the exhibition Dissonant Matter at Color Gallery in 2020. The exhibition brought together new work by Guillermo and another artist, Azuma Kazumi, focusing on tales of migration from non-human perspectives. Their projects reflect on the history of colonialism, global flows of trading goods and migrant labor, and transformation of information and knowledge systems. Together, their work reminded us of the connections between people and nature, global trading and industry, politics and power, and encouraged us to rethink the concept of wholeness and our role in the entire ecosystem. We are excited to see the new iteration of Sonic Biogenesis with the Living Art Show, the new music chamber ensemble with Travis Andrews and Andy Meyerson. Animations by Christoph Stigger bring Guillermo's mutants to life, and they weave through the video performance. Gilbert will tell you more about each performance later in his introduction. If you missed Guillermo's exhibition at Color, the online exhibition catalog, Does Not Matter, is available for download on our website, so please check it out. I hope you enjoyed the live stream tonight, and please stay on for the Q&A with the performers after the live stream. Thank you for joining. Hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you, Mayumi, and thank you to Kala Art Institute. Good evening, afternoon, and morning to everyone in Oakland and around the world. My name is Gilbert Guerrero, and I am one of the co-directors of Shapeshifters Cinema. Shapeshifters Cinema began as a monthly expanded cinema series based in Oakland. In the fall of 2019, we opened our own venue, an intimate 40-seat theater located in a Victorian building on Oakland's historic Bret Harte Boardwalk in the Jack London district. And we shut down in March 2020, and in the interim, we've brought you 20 performances via live stream, as well as a dozen artist-led workshops. We even opened an online shop. We are working on reopening. You can find out more about us and learn about all the things we're doing at shapeshifterscinema.com. We hope to be able to invite you back into our space soon. We also invite you to make a donation on our website at shapeshifterscinema.com, which is tax deductible through our fiscal sponsor, the San Francisco Cinematheque. We're thrilled to bring you tonight's show, Sonic Biogenesis, Genomics and Mutant Jungles, a performance at Shapeshifter Cinema by Guillermo Galindo and the Living Earth Show, a new music chamber ensemble consisting of guitarist Travis Andrews and percussionist Andy Meyerson. Andrews and Meyerson will play experimental sonic devices designed by Guillermo. Tonight's performance also features animation by Christoph Steger, bringing Galindo's mutants to life. Guillermo Galindo, post-Mexican experimental composer, sonic architect, performance artist, and visual media artist, redefines the conventional limits between music, the art of music, composition, and the intersections between art, disciplines, politics, humanitarian issues, spirituality, and social awareness. Galindo's graphic scores and three-dimensional sculptural cyber-totemic sonic objects have been shown at major museums and art biennials in America, Europe, Asia, including, amongst others, Documenta 14 in 2017, Pacific Standard Time in 2017, FIAC 2018, and Art Basel 2018 and 19. His work has been featured on BBC Outlook London, NHK World Japan, Vice Magazine London, HFFDK Germany, RTS Switzerland, NPR US, CBC Canada, Art in America US, Vice Magazine Canada US, Reforma Newspaper Mexico, CNN, The New Republic, The Wall Street Journal, and New York Times US. The Living Earth Show, featuring guitarist Travis Andrews and percussionist Andy Meyerson, is a megaphone and canvas for some of the world's most progressive artists. One of the premier contemporary chamber arts ensembles in the United States, the Living Earth Show received the grand prize in the SAVVY Chamber Arts Competition and the runner-up in the open division of the M Prize Chamber Arts Composition, has commissioned and premiered over 60 new works by some of the most vital composers in the world, released 2 critically acclaimed albums, and has performed, lectured, and given master classes across the country. Stick around after the performance. We will have a panel discussion with all of the artists. And before we begin, I want to acknowledge that the land where Shapeshifters Cinema is located in Oakland, California, is on Muwekma Ohlone tribal land. We recognize that Oakland sits on the territory of the Huichin, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people, the successors of the sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to the Muwekma Ohlone tribe and other familial descendants of the Verona Band. We recognize that every member of the Oakland community has benefited and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land. We recognize the historic discrimination and violence inflicted upon Indigenous peoples in California and the Americas, including their forced removal from ancestral lands, and the deliberate and systematic destruction of their communities and culture. We practice land acknowledgement in order to promote greater public consciousness of Native sovereignty and cultural rights. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Guillermo Galindo and the Living Earth Show. Thank you for joining us. On with the show.
feel me, Dave. Oh, oh. You got sound?
Let's try this one more time. Let's see. Try this one more time. Let's see. This one okay. Let's see. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
This one good. Everyone out there can hear us as well. Oh, and you guys have the video on YouTube playing right now? Just turn the sound off. There might be some feedback coming through. Everyone out there can hear us as well.
Shall we tell
oh yeah, I think Guillermo, go ahead and turn your sound off. All right. Let me see what's going on here. Okay. Okay, you can hear me now? Great. Okay, good. All right, so we are live with our artists here. I just want to take a moment to reintroduce our artists, Guillermo Galindo, Travis Andrews, Andy Meyerson, and Christoph Steger. Thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A. I also want to say, like, today's summer solstice. So happy summer solstice, everyone. I do have a list of questions just to get us going. First of all, and I'll jump into that, but first of all, thank you so much for an amazing performance. And the video with the animation was incredible. I also want to thank Dennis Keefe, who loaned a bunch of cameras to us so that we could record that show. It was incredibly helpful. Now, let's start with you, Guillermo, about the piece, Sonic Biogenesis. So I just want to understand like how that came about. And I know that it was a journey and evolution from Sonic Botany. So could you talk about that? Maybe its voyage and mutation?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Yes, you can hear me? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, first I'm going to do my list of thanking also. I'd like to thank Gilbert and Kathleen from Shapeshifters, Kala Arts, Beacon Gallery in Boston, and Qualia Art Gallery in Palo Alto, who is now presenting my Sonic Biogenesis work. And I also would like to thank Andrew and Travis for the Living Nerd Show and Christopher Steger for his amazing animation work. Lastly, I like to thank the people who helped me build my instruments: Genevieve Hastings, Luke Hambinger, Rosella Scapini, Nathaniel Rich, Luke, and that's that. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of history here. Sonic Biogenesis, Genomics, and Mutant Jungles started as an exhibit and commission of the Getty's Pacific Standard Time Biennale at the Huntington Library in Pasadena, in California, featuring my genomes course, which consisted of graphic representations of sonic compositions and artwork, merging textures of plants, animals, and microbes. Sonic Botany, in its first iteration, Sonic Biogenesis, was a response to the exhibit Visual Voyages, Images of Latin American Nature from Columbus to Darwin, which contained a collection of European codices that visually catalog the name flora and fauna of the Americas offered from colonialist religious filters. Recently, Sonic Biogenesis was shown at the solo exhibition at Beacon Gallery in Boston, and before that it was presented at Kala Arts as part of the Dissonant Matter exhibit, together with the work of Asma Kazmi, which questions the complex trade routes, global flow of people and commodities in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. In brief, Sonic Biogenesis, Genomics, and Mutant Jungles is an ethno-futuristic piece that provides a window to a dystopian post-human reality created by genomic engineering and colonization, manipulation, and appropriation of animal, plants, insect, and human genes by corporations. The piece we heard and saw today is the latest development of what will eventually become a larger musical operatic ritual, including the participation of the Living Earth Show and animation by Christoph Steger. For those in the Bay Area, my Sonic Biogenesis mutant artwork can be now seen at Qualia Gallery in Palo Alto. Is that a good answer? Maybe it's too long, but it's an answer.
Um, yeah, what really interested me was that I think you began this project in 2017. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. This has been developing since 2017. Yeah.
Nice. And it's taken on many different forms, as uh, visual art with sound together, a whole experience. And is that due to the way you're thinking about it, or is that part of the places that it's been displayed?
It's just mutating. It's mutating.
Mutating, yeah.
It's turning into a monster. That's all.
I love that.
Mutating. I think I like to integrate the visual and the oral and the performative and the ritual all together into one project, and I think this is the way to go in this particular project. And I'm very happy with the results so far, with everything that has happened.
Um, Now, in this current mutation with the Living Earth show, I just want to throw it over to Travis and Andy, our guitarist and percussionist for this show. Um, Tell me about your relationship to this piece of work, and how you went about working with Guillermo on this.
Um, I can start a little bit. Guillermo is just like, I mean, he's an artist we've admired for a really long time, as a composer, but also as someone who works in a ton of different media and blurs those lines between them, which is something that we strive to do as performers and kind of see a lot of inspiration in Guillermo and his work, since we've been aware of him. And so when we reached out to see what we could do together, um, the way we as an organization commission work um, is less about like kind of coming with an idea that we want a composer to do, or like write a piece for guitar and percussion or whatever, isn't really the way we go about things. The way we kind of operate as an organization, as an arts organization, as someone that as folks that use music as a tool to make stuff, is we'll approach Guillermo and other artists and be like, how can we be of service in creating the thing that you've always wanted to do? Like you're an artist that uses sound as a composer, but also in so many other ways. And what we do as an organization be of use in realizing whatever your kind of most ambitious creative artistic vision is going to be. And so that's where we started the conversation. And then Guillermo brought us into this world he was already in the process of creating, that we were able to kind of in beautiful and kind of ways that we're really feeling honored about be a part of this specific.
All right. And is that something you've done? So you talked about bringing other artists like visions and work to life, like working with them. How many different artists have you worked with?
Oh God, I mean, like, I think we really this one, but like, it's for us. It's not, when we're working with our job is to be like the ideal band for Guillermo when we're playing this piece. So I mean, we've worked with folks across, like anyone who can use music as a creative tool. We work with. I mean, a lot of it is sort of more traditionally classical music that's notated in a specific kind of way, speaks to our kind of like classical training. Um, so when we work with like ballet companies or folks who are home writing for like the San Francisco Symphony or whatever, or like string quartets, like we have like we're sort of built for that. But with Guillermo, I mean, Guillermo activates everything that we're excited about kind of simultaneously. Whether that's interest, like the interesting kind of ideas around notation and how like a composer can translate a musical idea to an interpreter, which is the basis of classical music, right? Like there's like the distinction between composer and so also how does an instrument like what does it mean to create sound with objects? Like Guillermo's work, dialogue with all that better than I know. And it's exciting to bring that vision to life using kind of the 11 years of work that we've done with our own kind of like guitar, percussion, chamber music, classical music, and all sorts of improvised musics and rock and electronic, whatever that we've done as an organization. Bring all of that comprehensively to Guillermo's work and see how we can be useful in bringing that to life.
Sure. So I have a similar question for Christoph. I know that the animation was maybe inspired by Guillermo's not only his the visual art that he created, but also I guess you could say the sound performance that all three created. Can you talk about the animation and like what your, I guess maybe what your intent was with what we saw?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, I mean, it's, well, I mean, first of all, it was an enormous just joy and fun for me to work on this project. It was kind of daunting, to be honest, because, like Guillermo's work both, you know, like visually, orally, and conceptually is, you know, so rich, you know, already that you kind of have to, you know, you sort of like ask yourself as, you know, a visual artist collaborator, how do you engage with, you know, with that? I've been sort of part of like Guillermo, like I've been talking to Guillermo for quite a while actually about what this project is about, but it wasn't really until almost essentially the day that we recorded the performance that I started like, you know, actually working on the animation. So it was sort of like a, you know, a kind of like reverse film scoring kind of approach in a way, right? Where the music, you know, is there, and I'm sort of seeing how I can respond with moving images, animation, you know, to that, you know, to that experience. And I think one of the, you know, and it's sort of, you know, it's somehow also developed quite organically in conversations with Guillermo. I think one of the things that I felt that was kind of happening for me is that I always think, you know, like, I mean, there's so many, you know, animation is such a like, you know, it has so many possible ways of like engaging with me. I mean, the immediate similarity is very obvious. You know, there's two kinds of time-based media, you know, that happen, and you know, and of course, I'm immediately thinking of like the, you know, the trajectory of visual music, and you know, that whole kind of, you know, like legacy of avant-garde animation in response or in relation to musical scores or performances. But sort of, I think what I ended up doing is something quite different, or in a way, like I was really sort of like, I guess teasing out the, you know, almost like in a tongue-in-cheek way, the sort of like cartoony, you know, humorous, you know, element that is so also part of, you know, Guillermo's universe. And I thought that, you know, it kind of like animation is sort of like, you know, perfectly suited to kind of like taking, you know, taking these notions of like these mutant, these, you know, speculative, you know, mutant creatures, and like just like literally making that in a way, you know, kind of playing around. And I've been so, you know, of course, you know, lucky to be able to just kind of like draw so much from all that visual work that Guillermo had already, you know, produced in the context of this. So, you know, there was just a lot of material to work with for me. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole concept of mutants is really fun. Like there's so much cool stuff you can do with that. And it seems to be mutants on all these different levels. Like there's microscopic mutants, which we are very familiar with now with these mutating viruses. But then also like other like animals and things like that too. I mean, coronavirus, I guess I'll say it. How did that like affect, you know, your mindset or what you were working on?
Yes, I mean, I think, I mean, for in terms of like thinking of the, yeah, like how to visualize that. I mean, this is like, it was actually, you know, before I had, this was sort of another project I've been sort of like, I have sort of had on the back burner for the past year, was to like literally work with microbes and bacteria for like animation purposes. And I think a lot of that thinking kind of just, you know, like made it into this, you know, into this project. And, you know, like specifically when Guillermo was talking about, you know, the sort of, you know, the microscopic and how there's a certain, you know, and there's that, you know, it kind of brings with it a certain kind of visual language that just sort of like lend itself to creating this kind of animation. You know, some of it was inspired by the, you know, Guillermo's use of electro microscopic imaging in the prints that he abstracted. And so I, quite literally sought out similar techniques to, in a sort of CGI digital animation context.
Yeah, super fun stuff. A lot of really eerie like images, especially with the sound,
That just to sort of like reiterate that was also just kind of like an important part of the process for me, and that was a lot of fun. I hope it sort of comes across that there were definitely certain moments in the performance, certain movements where it was it felt very natural to sort of like go into these I don't know, submerged monster tentacle spaces. Felt like
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thinking about the sound, so the work, like the sound was created with these very unusual instruments that Guillermo, you designed. How did that come about? Was that something that you had already envisioned for Sonic Biogenesis, or was this a marriage of another project? Like how did that come into play?
No, it's a the idea of the instruments came about um, having in mind a post-apocalyptic world, and what ritual instruments would we use if we cross the line between this era and the next era where there's mutant jungles, no? So they're created out of turtle bones and um, animal bones and I don't know what have you, like mutant, no, combination of between plants and animals and insects, That's kind of what I thought. No, the instruments are going to keep evolving, and the scenery is going to keep evolving, and the animation, the music is going to keep evolving. I love like everything that Travis and Andri do, and obviously um, uh, the animation was outstanding. Christoph was had a really he really found the sense of humor that I have, and I think it was everything was very well put together. For this is the beginning stage. I mean, you don't imagine what is coming next. This is just the beginning of something really big. But yeah, that's the idea of the instruments. Yeah. So the instruments played was two-headed guitar that Travis played, and the vibraphone that Andy played. They're both coming from turtle bone development, and reinterpreting the structure of animal skeletons. In this case, turtle skeletons, and also Andy was playing on stones or something, using rubbing them with turtle shells, and in these bones created out of aluminum that are very interesting. And yeah, that's the thing is that these alternative instruments don't carry too much preconceived baggage of how to play them. I mean, they're not a guitar or a drum set. They allow the performers to explore as if you were exploring the bones of an animal, as if you were exploring anything that is new to you. What sounds do they make?
Yeah, maybe Travis, could you talk about playing that two-headed guitar? There was seemed like there was a lot of exploration happening there.
Yeah, it was super fun. I think I'm making sound now, right?
Yeah, great.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so when we were exploring the concept, I was just having this total stoner freak out, because part of the concept of the mutant jungles was that it was post-human. So then I kept on getting all wigged out, because if it was post-human, then I wouldn't be there. It was actually impossible in like this post-human scenario that we were inhabiting for me to even make noise. So I found myself frequently just pretending to be a gigantic dust mite. So when I was playing, I was like, okay, well, how would a big dust mite play this thing? And that was my jumping off point for the improvisations.
Definitely had a lot of places to play this instrument too. I was surprised to see you, not only touching kind of these strings but the carriage that I was kind of sitting on.
Yeah, Guillermo came up with a really cool idea that like not only would we use that like both necks of the instrument, like we're functional guitars or bass or ukulele. There was some like interesting hodgepodge of stringed instrument, but the shell underneath the instrument was also an acoustic cavity, and it was also amplified. And then so we were able to run the shell of the instrument itself through all kinds of crazy effects. Fuzz pedal, notably. So it was just this distorted, turtle shell made out of metal, and you could play it like a percussive bowl, and it was really a blast to play. Like I loved getting in the room and making sound with that thing. It's awesome.
Awesome. And Andy, can you talk about playing those bones?
Them
Yeah.
bones.
I mean, they're like percussion's kind of a funny thing because like there's Steve Schick says it's not like an instrument, right? It's an action. So the actor, like as opposed to say a violinist or even a guitarist, right, where they are playing a guitar or playing a violin, a percussionist just hits whatever, right? So like it could be a timpani, it could be a turtle, but like I'm doing the same like smack, smack, smack thing. So there's in a lot of ways like while it is decoupled from let's say specific kind of like aesthetic signifiers, it's not that different to play a turtle than it is to play a snare drum, right? So like in the scheme of things, like it's part of my job to be able to make percussive sounds out of an object via hitting them or scraping them or tapping them or creating friction. So it's exciting to explore in that way and see the ways that like with like the turtle shells, right? Like how can friction activate these things, or like where can one tap to change pitch? But realistically, I mean, while it doesn't have the aesthetic signifiers of say seeing a drum kit on stage, it's part of what I do in a way that feels kind of weirdly normal. And so I think like as this project goes forward, I want to find ways to like get out of my comfort zone. Like I want it to feel less normal. Like I want to be more like encumbered or more like, which was really exciting when I was like, I was surprised at how natural those instruments felt to play. And like, it's really interesting as an improviser and someone sort of like playing in a group, like what does that mean to make these instruments feel natural but also feel special? So that's my goal, kind of having this experience, creating this work for this performance, like going forward with these instruments and with this catalog, and like developing a bit of a musical vocabulary for these instruments is exciting.
Yeah, so the three of you, like just thinking about Guillermo's composition, like how does that work? Guillermo, did you work with Travis and Andy to compose the music, or and how much was improvisation that we were watching as well?
Well, they came to my studio. Travis and Andy came to my studio to play with the instruments after receiving instructions of what kind of sound we were looking for, or moods, or the environment, post-human environment. And we just tried different things, exploring each of the instruments. Then I took some video clips of what I liked the best, or where I thought it could be developed more. And I wrote some notes, and then we got together at Shapeshifters, and then we talked about a little bit, and then we just like developed the ideas that we had already explored. It's and of course it was great play together, you know, because we were both exploring a new territory, and a new territory in terms of musicianship, to play with each other. And there's a beautiful thing that happens with musicians that know how to improvise, and musicians that know music deeply, because there's a, given knowledge of what it's supposed to be, and how you're supposed to listen, how you're supposed to approach call and response, when you're supposed to be quiet, when you're supposed to be playing. And it's just like you're literally managing time in a really very interesting way, time and sound. I don't know how to explain it. It's a very, it's a thing that happens naturally when you're playing with good musicians, you know?
Just was asked, I put something in the chat there for the audience to see if there are any questions. I don't see anything coming through. But yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about or tell us about?
Me, or are you waiting for questions?
I don't see any questions, but I was just opening the conversation up. Anything else you might want to talk about?
Not much. I would just like want to people to follow up with the rest of these. I want to integrate some choral stuff, some voice stuff, some probably choreographic things. I'm thinking of this in a big way. Christoph and I talk about 3D animation in a live 3D space, and Travis and Andrew have been following me through the process of creating this ritualistic opera type of thing. Andy gave me some guidelines, some people that could articulate vocally what I want to do, and I want to turn it into a very larger project, and into a really large project.
I see. Yeah, it so continues to evolve and mutate.
But this first stage is pretty good for me already, so it's going in the right direction. And thank you for that.
That's great. Well, Shapeshifters, you know, we're really happy to play a part in this. We really love seeing this kind of work come into being, and anything we can do to help make that happen in our space. You're always welcome to come back and take it over anytime.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you.
I do see something from Kala here. How do you describe the differences between presenting your music performance in this format and playing it in front of the audience? That's a good question.
It's interesting because animation work really good in this format, right? In order to work live, it would be projected, or it would be happening in 3D animation in the space. That would be very interesting. But this format were really good for animation, no? And also for the camera work, no? The camera work is also, which you, of course, you did, and the editing. It has a rhythm, no? It has a rhythm of, I mean, it's very interesting to broadcast something that is already edited, or to do something live, no? Because when you are broadcasting, you have the point of view of the camera, and when you're there, you can look at whatever you want, you know, or listen to whatever you want in the space. It's two very different formats, but I believe this is the first time I work with something like this. Thanks or not thanks to COVID, but yeah, it's this format has developed because of COVID, probably.
Yeah, I think people have been trying over the past year to figure out, like, yeah, what this format is. trying to make it work. But at the same time, I know for us, it's really helped us improve how we document the work, because that's really important. A lot of times the work can be very like ephemeral, like you had to be there to experience it. If you weren't there, then it's part of legend maybe at that point.
You cannot make the decisions of what the people is supposed to see, not necessarily to listen because you're listening to the whole thing, but you're making decisions of what people is supposed to see, and that's very interesting, no? So that was an interesting process with Christoph editing, no? What do we want to see? I mean, we want to see where the action is happening, no? If someone is playing, you want to see this person playing, no? If there's a space for the animation to come in, if there's a space for the animation to be taking over, those are decisions that you make as a filmmaker or as a animator, but not necessarily in a live performance. In a live performance, you can look whatever you want or see or work wherever you want. You can hear whatever you want and see whatever you want. So that's that's the difference. No, it looks like a little difference, but it's a big difference because you're not in the space. So you're not listening to the resonance of the room. You're not with people. It's a very different way to see things.
Quite interesting if I can sort of jump in on that point. Like, I think it's so like one of the things that has always attracted me to the possibility of like collaborating on a project like this is that I'm as somebody who comes from a practice that is so involved in one way or another crafting these frame by frame pictures, I've always been sort of like, I mean, for me personally, this feels very comfortable, making videos, editing them, like that's sort of where I come from. In fact, I'm actually really personally like really looking forward to the possibility of bringing animation work more into a space that functions around the parameters of live performance and music, the things that Guillermo is talking about, which seems so like exciting and exhilarating to me. And I've always felt a sort of limitation in the in the craft of making animation to be so bound to the laborious process and needing time, and at some point it's ready and then you can show it. And so but I think so maybe in an odd way, to kind of come back to your question, Gilbert, is that this this COVID, the forced COVID situation, which meant that live performance was not possible, kind of opened up the possibility of bringing these two worlds together in this moment, and then kind of going forward and seeing what the future brings in terms of like
yeah, it definitely changes the way the kind of moving image work is presented, especially with live performance. I know at Shapeshifters, we definitely love like projecting all over the place, any surface that we can project onto, whether it's a wall or a piece of furniture or an artist. So it did, at least for me, this piece definitely had that kind of feeling to it as well. Like the animation wasn't separate, or the images weren't separate. It was meant to be part of the performance. Let's see, I think we'll probably bring it to a close here. Maybe we'll start with the just closing, like Travis and Andy, what's next for the Living Earth show?
We'll be doing a bunch of recording over the next year, or the next couple months, really. But I think we're going to be performing live again in San Francisco in October, and we'll be hopefully after that kind of hitting the ground running, returning to the world of concertizing, which is very exciting.
Nice. And Christoph, what are you up to next?
Keep on keeping. I want to keep the momentum of like having just been so immersed in the past couple of weeks, and cranking out these animations. I look forward to both continuing thinking and working with Guillermo about those mutant animations, as well as embarking on the next personal project before my duties as art school teacher rope me back in September.
Yeah, that's ECA. That's great. And Guillermo, tell us what you're up to.
Well, I'm here in a night in San Diego in an artist residency, believe it or not, at Lux Art that they've been great for me. I had an opening on Friday, and I'm definitely into moving forward with Living Earth Show and Christoph to do the next stage of this, which is gonna be fantastic. And the next weeks I'm gonna be exploring the effects of the border wall into the flora and fauna in San Diego and Mexico and the US and Mexico. And I'm gonna be joining a biologist or a person that used to work for the United Nations, and I'm gonna be exploring that. And it's kind of like it fits very well with the biogenesis kind of thing, the pollution, the animal migration, the way that human beings have been altering nature, and how nature is responding to the invasion of humans. So that's what I'm gonna be doing, and I'm here until August. So if you happen to be around San Diego anytime, anybody, just give me a ring.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. This was a really great performance. It was an honor to have you in our space, and
Thank
to
you. Same here.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you so much.
Same here, yeah.
all right. And thank you to Kala for
Yeah.
being part of this.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.